Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Friday in the Rift, TGIF. Well, CJ, you caused quite a stir with that little deed. Uh,
Yes, I
people are
did.
people are buzzing. I'm getting phone calls and everything else, and wow, that was a. I'm looking at that highlighted section in subsection 3 here. It says basically you can't the alter you know the grantor, which is the city, agrees that no alterations shall not, yeah, made to the premises, including alteration of any interior, unless clearly is of minor nature and not affecting uh, and contribute to the architectural, archaeological, and historical integrity of the premises. Wow, Jazel can't sign that thing, and isn't it amazing that Jazel, the guy that he said was he was not Jazel. Well, maybe in this case he should have been, because Jazel cared a little bit about the history of the city. Uh, nobody's condoning what he did, but stealing from the rich and giving to himself. But at least he stole from the rich. This guy is just raping a taxpayer and making all his friends rich. He wants to
Well,
put it. Go ahead.
that restrictive deed covenant, the deed restriction, was very clear, and I firmly believe that the mayor knew that that deed restriction existed, and that's why he was trying to push through the sale through the city council before they found out about it. Oops! I guess I sent them out to the city councils. What a shame. As a matter of fact, though, when I sent it out to the city councils, I sent it to Michelle Dion, Andrew Raposo, Sean Kadim, and Linda Pereira. Linda Pereira said she knew about the deed restriction. Well, if you knew about the deed restriction, why didn't you mention it at the city council meeting? That's my big question. Why was it such a big secret? Now the city council has it, or several members have it. So what are you going to do? The building cannot be made into market rate housing. What's Mac Homa going to do with it? Turn it into an event center?
You know, the Cougs has always got a plan because he always gets what he wants. Even if he has to submit this 20 times. Now, there is an allegation that there's going to be an attempt not even to put this on the agenda until the new council is in and he gets more of his rubber stamps on there, assuming that he can ramrod anything through. So you know that Runaway Rumsey will come up with some opinion that says they can do this and they can change it and they can make a, I don't, well, whatever it is. But the bottom line is they're going to crap all over the people of Fall River and what they want. They're going to crap all over our history and give it to some guy from Westport who they said really doesn't want to make money. I don't know of any developer that builds things to lose money. I mean, that little piece of the council meeting was absurd. So, but again, we get back to one simple fact. Mr. Paul Coogan, the man who said, he ran on, I'm not Jazel Correa, which is a fact. And in many cases, Jazel was far better than him as an administrator. By Sean Kadim's own words in the council, a much better mayor. He actually understood a little bit about this. He's still walking around like he did in Durfee with his head up his rectum. So, but the reality is that they don't care about the law. He said, and I follow the law. I'm going to be transparent. No, not. I'm going to follow the law. Not. Only follow the law when it suits you. If it doesn't suit you, I know, and actually I got a text from a friend, from someone who said that they liked the alliteration on the mendacity, the mendacious mayor, the master of mendacity. So they like the word. They said they're going to use it at the next town meeting they go to. So they enjoyed that. But the reality is, listen, This guy speaks with a forked tongue. He's never been honest with the people of Fall River. He's the master of the backroom and shady deal and circumventing the law. You look what he did when he took control of the budget. He used the legal interpretation to take control of a budget that he wanted to manipulate. And now he's going to try to manipulate this. Well, I hope the historical society, I hope the people who have organized to save this building take them to court if they try to do anything. File a lawsuit against any counselor that tries to ignore this agreement. It's pretty clear. I'm looking at it right now, and there's even a little, oh, you can't see it now, but it's even highlighted for everybody to know what's important, and it's pretty clear. I mean, I'm fairly good at reading contract language, and it even says at the end, which is a real legal thing, it's incorporated in that it says that restriction guidelines which are attached to the agreement and hereby incorporated by reference. So that's pretty solid contract language. And there's a few shalls in there. And for those of you who don't know anything about laws and contract language, shall means exactly that. It doesn't mean it's optional. It means you have to do it. You shall. That's what shall means in these languages. It doesn't mean that you get to say, well, it's, you can't be like Joe Biden and say, well, the Constitution is optional. I don't have to abide by the Constitution of the United States because it's optional. I only want to deal with the parts that I like. And this guy is a master of the shady. I mean, this guy's done more backroom deals in three and a half years, in 4 years, than I've ever seen in 40 years of watching mayors in Fall River politics. This guy circumvented more laws in 4 years than I've seen mayors, all the mayors of the past 40 years. This guy is just blatant. He doesn't care, and he's just giving a giant finger to everybody in the city saying, listen, I'm here to do one thing, collect my paycheck, give all my friends jobs, and make all my rich friends richer. And when I'm not the mayor, I'm going back. I'm leaving that Bobby townhouse that I show up in every once in a while to pretend I live in Fall River. And I'm going back to Somerset, and I'm not going to pay not one dime of the debt that I'm going to stick on your backs as your mayor. And that's the thing that really irritates me. Back to you, CJ.
What's interesting, though, is if you review that restrictive covenant that goes on the deed, it says that the city shall maintain the property. Okay? So the mayor already violated the law because he hasn't maintained the property. And it says that they shall, and it says that the Massachusetts Historic Commission can, anytime they want, go in and inspect the building. Now, there are no fines attached to it, but you know what? Maybe the Mass Historic Commission should come down and inspect the building and see the effectiveness of maintaining buildings in Fall River is. Because we know we put money in the budget, but for some reason it never gets spent. Never gets spent. And the people of Fall River are always the ones that take the shit end of the stick every time you turn around. Every time you turn around. I'll tell you right now, the Romans had it better when they took a dump than the people of Fall River do. The Romans at least had a wet cloth that they could wipe their ass with.
Well, I'll tell you, you bring up a point, but they not only violated the covenant of that agreement, and it's a sad commentary when you have to put in they shall maintain the building. There's a city ordinance that's been around forever And I don't know if it's even been updated from its original language, because it used to be DPW. But it clearly states in the ordinances, which are the laws for the city of Fall River, in city ordinance, that all public buildings shall be maintained by the Department of Public Works. And you say the money never gets used. It gets used. It gets diverted somewhere else. But I'll tell you what money does get used. The salary money for all the people who are getting paid to maintain the buildings and aren't. We've got an entire maintenance division in the school department, in spite of the fact that that ordinance does not say except school buildings. It says DPW at the time. That's the way the ordinance read. It said, all buildings shall be maintained by the Department of Public Works. All public buildings. Period. That's including school buildings. Yet, because the school gets so much money and they love to spend it, they've got an entire maintenance division. And look how good they did on the old Durfee. They don't maintain buildings. They think maintenance is like sweeping the floor. That's what they consider maintenance. The building's falling down around them. Where is the leadership? The head of the maintenance division in the school department, does he go around and check the buildings? Do they have some kind of reporting system for major discrepancies that occur in the buildings before they reach the catastrophic level? No. And if they do, we've never been told about it. But then again, we don't get told about anything that happens in this city by this guy. But the reality is, do they have a reporting system? No. Let's see. Malone shit all over all the employees. Their excuse was, well, we don't have any discipline plan. We don't have anything in writing. Yes, you do. You have a federal law about sexual harassment, and it's a city has adopted that policy. So that was a lie. But that's their excuse. But did they ever create one? Has the school committee since Malone even talked about establishing some kind of progressive discipline plan for employees and supervisors who shit all over their employees? No. I haven't heard a damn thing about it. And we know what happened with the head of security. We know all the fights that go on. And there's been a couple of murders recently in schools, not in Massachusetts. Last one was in Nevada. And I believe in Nevada they're trying those they're trying those juveniles as adults, because it's the law over there. If they commit a capital crime, they can be tried, and they are trying them. What are we going to wait for? We're going to wait till somebody's murdered in a fight? And then the school committee will say to you, well, we didn't really have a policy. Well, my question is, why not? Why don't we have a policy? Because they don't want one. They might have to discipline one of their friends. I'm telling you the dirty little secret. And I think I've said this before. When I was the president of the union, I had the same problem. They used, well, you know, there's no policy. Well, I brought them a policy. I brought the Boston Fire Department's Progressive Discipline Manual down, and it's about, there's not even enough room on a TV for me to get this. It's even bigger than it's big, and it's very thorough. And I dropped it on a fire chief's desk and said, just adopt this plan. It's used on the largest fire department in this state, and it is clear, and it's effective, and it's legal. Progressive discipline, verbal warning, written warning, suspension, bigger suspension, termination. Obviously, if it's a major crime, you go directly to termination. But it's a very, very and you know what happened to that? It got stuck in a bottom drawer somewhere. It may be there, where they may have thrown it in a dumpster. To my knowledge, there's not. I don't know of any department that's got a really, truly effective progressive discipline policy. And as a union head, I was actually advocating for that. Because I wanted people to have the same standard for everyone. Not just the mayor's pals and the department head's pals and the people who go play golf with their supervisor. They get treated better. No, everybody that screws up, you violate, you get a verbal warning. But then the problem with that is, if it's in writing and it's adopted, they have to do that to their friends when their friends screw up. And they don't want to do that. That's the problem. They get to screw everything up and then cry about it. Remember, Mr. Flush said, we're flush. Now, after he's elected for his last term, he's got the whinies. He's like Doug and Wendy Weiner from the old Saturday Night Live. We got no money. Diamond's coming. We got no money. We can't do the Armory. We got no money. I just blew $80 million in opera money. We got no money. We got no money. What are we going to do? Lay people off? Threaten to lay off cops and firefighters? Make you pay more taxes? Raise all your fees? Re-implement the purple bags? Remember, before we got that opera money, that's exactly what Mary Sahadi said at the council. Those were projected ways of handling the budget deficit that they were creating. And as I said at the last retirement board meeting, I will remind you, you got us into this with your uncontrolled spending. Because when one of the city representatives began to whine about, the money, we did, I said, well, you put yourself in this position. Because he created 68 jobs on the city side, and I don't know, 40 something on the school side. He's paying it without. No, he's not. Yes, he is. And we're on the hook for those jobs once the opera money runs out. And we got Diamond, and we got Durfee. So override. And we've still got that video, by the way. If you want to see the video and say it doesn't exist, we got the video of Paul saying, well, I am considering bringing back the trash pickup fee. And then right behind him, you have Mary Sahadi's presentation with the litany of things. Purple bags, trash fee pickups, permanent cuts in fire and police, 2.5 override, etc., etc., etc. And now, when all the bonus money, all the magic money runs out, guess who's gonna bend over? And I'm gonna tell you what, if you call up City Hall and ask for some Vaseline, you know what they're gonna tell you? We got no money for Vaseline. Back to you, CJ.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know, if I didn't know better, I would think that this is a fictitious story, because it can't be that bad. Nobody can be that stupid. And to spend all that money like a drunken sailor makes absolutely no sense. It made no sense. That could have been money that really did some good for the people of Fall River. It didn't do good for anyone but Paul's friends. He made handling that opera money such a secret so that nobody knew how it was being spent. And then when Chris Peckham went public with some of the statements that were being made in the opera committee meetings, where did Chris was, bye-bye. It's amazing. This is an administration that's all based upon subterfuge. It's based upon deception. It's based upon lies. And it's based upon making sure that my friends get what they need. Jobs, pay raises, millions of dollars, tax incentives. That's what they do. And the sad part about it is that this city council approves all of that. They approve it all. And they don't think anything about it. They think nothing about it. It's only money. The only person that's ever thought anything about it was Sean Kadim and Michelle Dion. They've asked the questions. And the rest of the council, you know what I mean? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. They do nothing. And that's why we're in the situation we are in. And the worst part about it is you re-elected these people. You re-elected these people. And what happens when you re-elect dumb? You get dumber. I'm sorry, but I'm sick and tired of people voting for people because they've done them a favor or because they're popular. This is why we need term limits. This is why we have to make sure that we get a city council that changes regularly. This is why we need ward councilors so that the second ward is represented as much as the 8th and 9th ward. So that the Ward 1 is represented just as equally as wards 8 and 9. That Ward 4 is represented just as equally as wards 1, 2, 8, and 9. It's got to be fair. And we don't have fair in Fall River. We have the North End dictating and the South End's getting screwed. I'm telling you, it's great for a pimp. They make a lot of money. But we don't have anymore. And Louis, I like that. They cover up for each other and they say the allegations are false. Of course they do. Of course they do. Like you said earlier, they're gaslighters. And this is why we're in the situation we're in. And the people don't care. So, back to you, Chip.
Yeah, well, listen. Ironically, I understand. You say, well, you want to blame. I blame the 40,000 people plus that didn't come out to vote, because we always have the power. There are more of us than there are of them. But when you get a community like this, you can remember, CJ, you and I are dating ourselves, but you and I remember when we used to get 65, 70% turnout. And in those days, you never saw them go insane with tax increases and fee increases. There wasn't a mayor that ever ran in his city or a councilor that supported a tax increase in an election year. Ever. They would never pass a budget with a dime increase in taxes. Never. They'd be out on their butts. They said, oh, Coppenver's in for 12 years or so. Well, yeah. And when he left, there was a $12 million surplus. The city always had plenty of money. They made sure we had plenty of money. They didn't want to raise taxes because they got bounced out. And I don't know what the reason is that people have to be at critical mass before they get their butts out to vote. They don't understand. Listen, I don't agree with these people, but I understand their motivation. These people all have these people will always come out to vote. That's why you can't let 14,000 people vote. You have to get turnouts. You have to get the people whose pockets are being attacked to the polls. You can't survive if you allow everybody that got a job, all their relatives, everybody that made money, everybody that thinks they can get a favor from one of these clowns is going to the polls. They're going. You have to factor that in. And we tried to tell a few candidates that using that vote builder was bullshit. But no, they didn't want to listen. No, the vote builder tells you who votes. Yeah, the problem is, look who's voted in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 elections in Fall River. Except for the recall, we got a few people out in the middle because we inflamed the people and we got the average people out. But the reality is, look at the last 3 elections Coogan's been in. Extremely low turnouts. So who comes out? He got 7,000 votes or whatever the hell. He gave out 7,000 jobs. That's friends and family of people who are kissing his ass. There's what? 55,000 voters? 50, the estimates are different. I think state, we got the states at 55,400 if I remember, and I got a good head for numbers, but 55, somebody said it was 58, Brian Lyon says it's 58, it's, who gives it? But it's above 50,000 voters. It's above 50,000 voters. You get what you deserve. You get 14,000 people to the polls, more than 50% of them are there voting for somebody that they have a vested interest in getting in. Not because they're going to help you, because they're going to help them. Not because they care about the city. These people are pure political ticks. And they're always going to exist. I'm not Pollyannish enough to believe that you can make people vote on, God, country, and America. We all know that. We've been doing this a long time. People vote for the dumbest things in the world. I mean, elections are swung on things like, the country's in the toilet. They're invading it. 8 million illegals. I saw today about all the money. Now they're appropriating more money for housing in Massachusetts or the illegals. Oh, we're at max, and they're trying to get this program, that program for illegals while we got veterans sleeping in the streets. We got people that can't afford their rent sleeping in tents now. But they don't care about Americans. They're going to worry about, their wokies. And the problem is, this is it. You want to change that, you got to get to the polls. You got to get to the polls. It's that simple. You can't have, you don't have a representative government unless the people who are being represented show up. The only thing that's getting represented are the political machines. Just look at this state. They never stop spending money. They got tons of, they have billions of dollars in surplus. They wouldn't give you a tax break. But you keep electing it. I mean, you got a better chance of being elected as a unicorn in this state than you do as a Republican or a conservative. And that boggles my mind. I mean, you look at this thing, all they know how to do is spend money. You look at the red states, no low taxes. Virtually some of them have no state taxes. Low crime, low everything. You go to the blue states, it's a mess. And I'm an independent. I've never been a Republican. I've never been a Democrat. Well, I guess I was a Democrat when I was, younger, because in those days, I wasn't really a Democrat. I wasn't even voting then. But the fact is that, how it was in the old days, CJ, that the Democratic Party was the poor man's party, but that's not true now. The Democratic Party is the party of multi-trillion-dollar debt and no way to control anything. And this city is a microcosm. We got a president that hides in a basement, and the only time he shows up is to read off a cheat sheet at some wind farm and mispronounce names. And we got a mayor that never shows up unless he's doing a tree lighting or a parade or something like that. Yeah, otherwise, he's been governing for 4 years in this city. When the hell have you ever seen him call a press conference about crime, about the schools, about underperforming schools, about all the fist fights that we showed videos of? Never. Never. And how you can't get out to the polls is beyond me. So that's it. That's my rant that's my weekend rant, CJ.
Well, thank you very much. We have a breaking story, by the way. Um, it's just been announced that retired Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman on the Supreme Court, dies at the age of 93. She died from complications of dementia. She was appointed in 1981 by Ronald Reagan and was confirmed by the Senate without a problem. She ended the male sovereignty of the Supreme Court. May she rest in peace. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, there's a children's Christmas parade tomorrow from Kennedy Park to Government Center and the tree lighting. Just what we need, a tree lighting. Thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Monday. Thank you very much. Why it keeps doing that, I'll never know.